Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to the cast of Extraordinary, dropping January 25th on Hulu in the States and Disney Plus in the UK. Thank you all for your time.
Woo! The silence after we stop.
I love this show so much, and I got a lot of questions for all of you. Máiréad, we'll start with you. I mean, the genre-bending component of this is what I love the most. You have the slice of life, you have the comedy, and of course, the superhero culture happens to be there as well. Was that something you really loved when you were reading the script for this that kind of drew you towards this project?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's funny when people say like, "Oh, what drew you to it?" or "What attracted you?" It's just like it came to us, and we were like, "Absolutely." There was never any question of us going to it. It came, and it was like, "Absolutely, I want to do this." I love the fact that it's so, as you say, genre bending, because it's not like a superhero story. It's not just a comedy. It's like a comedy that has an element of superpowers to it. So it's like the only kind of factor that's different from everyday life nowadays is the fact that I would say it's more colourful, which is quite a nice thing to see on telly. It's not just boring black coats. It's lovely, colourful clothes.
You hate black coats.
I hate them.
They're boring.
But yeah, the only element that's different is the fact that people, once they turn 18, get a superpower. That's it. There's no other difference, which I think makes it so relatable, but also it changes the world entirely and adds a whole kind of... It's a framework for you to discover, let's say, more about being in your 20s and playing, Emma toys with all that kind of stuff then as well.
Some of the one-liners in this are pretty amazing. Some are in the trailer, but I can't wait when people actually get to watch the whole series because there's a lot of amazing laughs. Sophia, based on what Máiréad said about all the elements, was there one that you kind of liked the most out of all the elements? Did you really get drawn towards the comedy? Did you get drawn towards the superhero? For you, which one did you like the most if there was one to pick from?
If I had to pick one, I like them all, but if I had to pick one, it definitely was, the comedy within the scripts and Emma's writing. It felt so succinct and so original and fresh, and it just felt unlike anything I'd ever read or seen before. I think her voice is so unique, and as you say, one of a lot of the one-liners she has, but also just a lot of the characters and actually the superpowers that she gives the characters, which sometimes juxtapose their characters. It felt so different and really exciting to read, and I just kept wanting to read more and more. So I felt that was a great sign.
Oh, 100%. Bilal, one of my favorite things as well about this is the fact that, a lot of these characters, all of your characters, are figuring things out, doing a lot of self-reflection, soul-searching. It happens to be about their superpowers, but they're still kind of figuring out a lot of things. During the pandemic, a lot of people were doing a lot of self-reflection, soul-searching, because frankly, we have the time to do so. So I feel like Extraordinary, the show, becomes more relatable because of that. And Bilal, I'm just curious if you thought about that at all, because I feel like that's an important thing to talk about when it comes to this show.
Yeah, I think that what's amazing about the show is that the normal superhero genre is kind of used as a form of escapism for people who love that kind of trope, right? A lot of people like to go and invest themselves in worlds that actually kind of aren't really similar to ours or are a bit more extraordinary. But I feel like what Emma does in this show is actually somehow use the superpower trope to actually interrogate what our reality is, feelings of isolation, feelings of grief specifically that Jen goes through. Mm-hmm. Obviously that's a big thing that happened during the pandemic. A lot of people lost their loved ones. Mm-hmm. But also just isolation and loneliness and living in a big city, I think are big things that all of us actually went through. And so I think that weirdly the superhero stuff makes you reflect on all of that more. It's not a form of escapism watching the show, even though it is really funny. It feels quite true to life as well.
Totally. No, that's so well said. Now, Luke, you are a storyteller. That's what you do, basically. All of you are storytellers. What do you find extraordinary about storytelling specifically?
I think what I love about storytelling, and I'm really drawn to stories that seem to pull away from the world that we recognize around us. I'm definitely more drawn to shows like this than shows in black coats, for example. But that has to stay in now. But like, I'm definitely drawn to stories like this because I feel like sometimes they help you look at the world in a way that is like more inventive and more playful. And so often, you know, I think so many of our own problems and so many of the problems in the world come from us being unable to like imagine anything any different. And I think something that's so beautiful about this show is that it is so imaginative and like so inventive, and it's a strange world that hopefully gets us to look at ourselves differently. I think because all the problems that the characters are going through are things which are then massively exaggerated by the problems of their characters. You know, for example, Kash or Carrie. You know,
but it's also especially Kash.
But I think especially Kash.
You know, he's got
especially
this.
Kash,
He has this power where he can turn back time.
Yeah.
By 4.5 minutes.
Or 4 minutes 50 if he carb
If he's
loads.
carb loaded, yeah.
But it's interesting because he's, you know, trying to correct all these kind of mistakes in his life or whatever. But actually,
when he sort of goes back in time, what he's doing is actually like making those mistakes even worse because he can actually never rectify them because he's going back in time.
But I think that's the best thing about the show too, Máiréad. Obviously, a lot of the focus is the fact that you're powerless, but then everyone else that has their powers, it's like, do they actually have the powers they actually want, right? Like, I feel like that's That's like the best thing about it.
The powers come with like so many insecurities to the characters, I think, and that's quite a really interesting thing to kind of explore.
And that's so true, I think. I think that's something about us as just human beings, is that we think something will, you know, we'll get something and we'll be so much happier. But obviously, like, you know, everyone there's stuff that they're miserable and they're insecure about. And like, you always think that something's going to change your life forever. And then, because
I feel like if Jen was to get a power, like I feel like she believes if she was to get any power, she doesn't care what it would be, that she would still feel good about it. But the reality is, if she like got a power and it was like, I don't know, the ability to make light bulbs, she'd be like, oh, for fuck's sake, like I don't want to be able to do that. I want to be able to fly. Or actually, making light bulbs would be quite cool.
Making light bulbs would be really cool.
Making light bulbs would be quite cool.
You like birth them out of your mouth.
I do feel Kash definitely like do you think he loves his power?
Yeah, I think Kash loves his power, even though, as we said, it is a burden.
Yeah.
Because
no, absolutely.
I think he doesn't realize that it's a burden.
And they're going to be able to see it. I'm really excited for everyone to see it because January 25th, Disney Plus in the UK, Hulu in the States, extraordinary. Thank you all so much for your time. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.